This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Welcome. Glad you're a part of the Farm Monitor, the show that deals with anything and everything related to Georgia agriculture and beyond.
And to echo what Ray said, happy to have you with us for the next half hour. And as always, we've got a great show for you. Coming up, what do you want to see in the next Farm Bill? American Farm Bureau has already laid out its priorities, the message AFBF President ZIPPY DUVALL has for members of Congress, and the issues he feels should be at the top of the agenda. Also on the show, if there's an award given out by 4-H and FFA, chances are Lexi Pritchard has won it, and she certainly has the hardware to prove it. Damon Jones profiles this high school phenom and reports on how her ag experience has already led to a new business venture.
And then later, the survey involving Georgia farmers and their mental health. Some pretty eye-opening responses. Responses that prompted action. And today we're talking to someone who could shed some light on the steps being taken to enable farmers to get the help they need. All this and more starts right now on the Farm Monitor. Well, for Joshua Griffin, managing UGA's Iron Horse Farm isn't something he ever thought he'd be doing. But fate had its way, and it's a job he has grown to love. John Holcomb now on why Joshua's role is so vital in advancing the state's ag industry.
Without research, agriculture wouldn't be where it is today. Thankfully, the University of Georgia recognizes that and has research farms all across the state that are dedicated to the advancement of the industry. Of course, though, that wouldn't be possible without a committed staff that ensures the work that's conducted is purposeful and has value, like Joshua Griffin, farm manager for UGA's Iron Horse Farm in Watkinsville.
I started with UGA back in 2006 when I was a student worker, when I was in college, and it wasn't really my major, but once I started and got to learning, I really fell in love with agriculture, and I decided change my major and stay on, and as the time worked by, I was able to work my way up throughout from student worker, part-time, ag specialist, on up to farm manager. We're doing basically two sides of research. So like basic research, we're looking to solve problems that are not going to fix a problem for a farmer next growing season. We're looking, 5-10 years out. And we also do a little bit of the applied research, which is actual technology, different stuff we're doing that they can actually be applied the following year or in the same year as soon as somebody sees it. There's 8 rec stations throughout the state UGA has, so every place they're kind of situated throughout the state has a little bit different problems. So we're able to kind of hone in, take some questions and stuff from local farmers, what issues are you having? Let's see if we can work on a little project to address that, just for this specific area, whereas you have Tifton addresses completely different issues than we have up here. Not so different, but just region specific.
According to Griffin, what he strives for is relevance, as he wants the work they do at the farm to be applicable to producers that are relying on the information they're gathering, and is why they try to mimic farming operations around the state by using similar equipment and practices.
A farmer comes up to me and, our research plots are real small. They're less than an acre, running a small 2-row combine or hand harvesting. That doesn't seem applicable to a farmer. He's looking at it, it may be neat, interesting, this is how it starts, but he can't translate that from that to what he's running on his farm. So having the opportunity to run a piece of equipment that is similar or exactly what they have, it may still be a little bit smaller, but a lot more relative, lets them say, hey, if they can do this on this scale, it's not much to scale up to, 16 rows instead of 12.
And looking ahead to the future, Griffin's goal is simple: to continue the important work the Iron Horse Farm does for the state's agriculture industry and continue building its long-lasting legacy.
It's a research and education center. So we're researching through, we're looking at these problems, we're finding solutions, we're bringing new stuff to the table through industry and all, and being able to present that and educate everybody. I think that's our goal, just helping people in the long run, farmers to kids as they're growing up, and just educating, the community and the state about agriculture.
Reporting in Watkinsville for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
In other ag news, American Farm Bureau has begun preparations for the upcoming Farm Bill. In fact, they've already released a list of some of their top priorities and goals. Atop that list, maintaining Farm Bill program funding. Other key priorities, supporting risk management tools, as well as keeping nutrition and farm programs together.
Why is that so important? Because it makes perfect sense that one single bill support the people who produce the food and support the people who need assistance accessing nutritious food for their families. And federal crop insurance commodity programs help to balance the volatility that farmers face, which is important to ensure a stable food supply. There's a huge percentage of Congress that has not had this challenge in front of them. And we need to make them understand how important it is to all Americans, whether you're in rural America, whether you farm or not, or whether you're in urban America. And it's not just about farming. It is about America and its national security.
Very few 4-H or FFA members embody what those organizations stand for more than Oconee County's Lexi Pritchard. Not only has she earned countless honors and awards throughout her distinguished career, but she's also used what she's learned to start up her very own operation. Damon Jones has her incredible story.
This is just a small sample of the awards that grace the trophy case of Lexi Pritchard, whose career in both 4-H and FFA has been nothing short of remarkable. Growing up on a 90-acre family farm right outside of Oconee County, agriculture was a path Pritchard knew she was destined for.
I started showing cattle in the 7th grade. I got involved with 4-H and FFA right around that time too. I've done anything from forestry judging to livestock judging to consumer judging, and it's just been a whirlwind since then. And I'm like really grateful for all the opportunities that I've had, because it's really developed me into who I want to be, and it's shown me what I want to do with my career in the future.
It's that passion for agriculture and all there is to learn about the industry that led Pritchard to become actively involved in both her 4-H and FFA chapters.
What I think sets Lexi apart is she is such an advocate for agriculture and 4-H and FFA. We often find that kids, they are very loyal to one club or the other, and that's great. I mean, both have, ultimately we have the same mission, but Lexi's a kid that really advocates for both, and I love that she encourages her peers to do it all.
All that hard work has certainly paid off, as she is now up to 6 masters in the 4-H program, including one that recognizes her entire body of work.
Lexi has excelled in all things agriculture in both clubs. She recently became a Master 4-H'er in the Dean's Award project, and that's a culmination of a 4-H'er's whole career, from 5th grade until whatever point. For her, it was 11th grade. Lexi's a kid who has really not just focused in one area. She loves the beef industry, she loves poultry, but if you look at her resume, she's hit dairy and equine. I mean, she really touches it all.
That love for cattle has manifested itself into her very own startup operation, thanks to plenty of hard work and determination.
5th grade, I decided that I wanted to be a cow farmer, just kind of like out of the blue. But my grandma, sat me down and was like, this is going to take a lot of work. You got to understand, it's not as easy as that decision. And so I worked my butt off cleaning horse stalls for her every day for like a couple of years. And they supported me through it, and they helped me buy my first 2 cows. And it's just grown since then. And now I have about a herd of 30 head of cattle.
Even though she's accomplished so much in a short period of time, this is just the beginning for Pritchard, as she has big plans for the future.
I really hope to go into poultry science, which is something I got involved with in 4-H poultry judging in like the 7th grade. That has been something, when I haven't been doing poultry judging, I've been thinking about it. When it hasn't been the season we're practicing, I'm like, oh my gosh, I miss it so much. So that has been something that I've figured out. I want to do that with my future. And, I'm always going to have a herd of cattle as well. I just know that at some point in my life, I will figure out how to have a herd of cattle, because it's my favorite thing in the world.
Reporting from Oconee County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Let's be honest, a farmer's life involves a ton of stress, self-doubt, and as many often experience, a sense of hopelessness. After the break, how the Georgia Foundation for Ag is addressing the stigma of mental health and the places you can turn to if you feel the need to seek help.
Your value is more than the markets. It's more than your acres and more than your livestock and more than your bank account. We are humans too. We are community members, we're volunteers, we're creative, we're problem solvers. There's so much to us. When a family friend of ours passed away to suicide, it was a real eye-opener for us. When we were in line at the visitation, people said, you know, what happened? What was it that caused this? And as a former counselor, I knew that it wasn't one thing. Suicide doesn't start at the end there, that there's one thing that causes it. That's not how it works. It's a culmination of things. It starts as stress and it continues as excruciating and chronic stress or depression or anxiety, and it just builds. We had a new baby and a not even 2-year-old at the time, and we really took that opportunity to look in the mirror and say, you know, we're experiencing a lot of stress right now, too much stress right now, to the point where it's becoming out of control, and we probably need to do something about it. That was the time for us that we really made the decision to start talking more, start getting some professional help, which is really hard to do. It's really hard to rip that Band-Aid. But in doing so and making some major changes in our own home, we know that our outcome was well worth that time and those efforts, because we know that we were going down a path that wasn't going to be good.
As a farmer and rancher in North Carolina, I know firsthand the stresses and the struggles that come with this way of life. I've seen it affect good friends, and I've lost good friends. I don't want to lose anyone else. It's time to end the stigma around mental health. And we can only do that when we come together and we keep spreading the message that it's okay to not be okay.
The stigma in rural communities is really troublesome because what it does is it keeps us isolated. It keeps us quiet. We don't want to talk about the stresses that we're having or the struggles that we're having because it makes us seem weak or embarrassed. And when we do that, we don't share that with each other. We don't realize that other people are going through some of the same things that we're going through. So then that really puts up a wall between people who need to get help and their willingness to go out and get it and find it. You don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to be a doctor. You just have to be someone who can sit with empathy and listen to someone without judging the position they're in.
That's our 25th wedding anniversary.
We want to empower people to ask for help, but we also want to make sure that we are reaching out ourselves. We're expressing concern. We're talking about the things we notice. Hey, I noticed that you usually stick around and chat at the farm when we've wrapped something up, but right now you're always in a rush to get out. Is everything okay? Just showing that genuine concern, that genuine care for someone, and more importantly than anything is just listening. When agriculture organizations like Farm Bureau use that leadership platform to advocate for mental health and to bring awareness and priority to mental health, it teaches farm and ranch families that it's okay to talk about tough things. They show you that your health is a priority to them, your wellness is a priority to them, that you as an individual and as a farmer are a priority to them. It's not just your farm, it's not just your equipment and all the other things that go along with the farm. It's you, and they want you to be well. It allows people, most importantly, to connect to resources that they might need. They allow us to bridge that gap between people who need some sort of help and finding, where that help is. All we have to do is make it okay to talk about stress, to talk about depression, to talk about some of these things that are tough to talk about right now.
If a friend is acting different than normal, I encourage you to see if you can lend them a hand, help them with a chore, or even just go on a drive to look at farm ground and fields. Make sure they're okay. Let them know that you're there for them. If you are down or depressed, I encourage you to ask for help. It's okay. We've been there before, and you're not alone. Let's end the stigma of mental health. We're all in this together.
Staying on the subject of mental health, earlier this year, the Georgia Rural Health Innovation Center at Mercer University, in cooperation with the Georgia Foundation for Agriculture, released the findings of a survey that showed an alarming number of farm-related personnel, including owners, had at one time or another thoughts of suicide. Even more alarming, 60% of first-generation farmers surveyed also admitted to having suicidal thoughts. With more insights on the survey, as well as what's being done to help farmers who might be struggling with mental health issues, I'm joined now by Lily Balcom, Executive Director of the Georgia Foundation for Agriculture. Lily, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me how this project came together.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, our organization, we sat down and went through a whole strategic planning process, and we were really troubled by this emerging crisis for farmers. Mercer's center at the same time is interested in reaching more farming communities. So we teamed up between our organization, Georgia Farm Bureau, and we put together a plan for how we were going to circulate to get more information. Most of the research out there was really around farmer suicide, and we wanted to take a step back and look at all the individual factors that have an influence on farmers' mental health.
And looking at the survey, once it was done, what were some of the key findings in that?
Yeah, so we had about 1,600 responses for an online survey, which is pretty rare. And we circulated advertisements in almost every newspaper across the state. And so first off, I mean, people just want to talk about this issue and need an outlet. We found that almost about half of the farmers were experiencing loneliness or depression almost daily. And that's really troubling for us. So I think we're going to be diving into, what those statistics really mean for farmers in Georgia, and also looking at how first-generation farmers may need a little bit more assistance in learning those coping mechanisms.
So where do you go from here with your partners that you've put together? What are the next steps?
So obviously we've teamed up with Mercer, but there's great other research that's happening all around the state. Other universities, different nonprofits, and state agencies. We want to come together and make sure that at the end of the day, farmers actually are getting the help they need and that we're not over-surveying. So we're trying to form a Georgia Ag Wellness Alliance that would work to coordinate research efforts and also pilot some programs across the state.
I'll throw this one at you. If there are people that are watching this and they go, hey, I didn't get a chance to weigh in on this survey and I really have a story to tell, what do they do?
Yeah, so we'll be doing some follow-ups and reaching out to do some stakeholder interviews. So there's definitely some more coming there. There's other universities as well, like University of Georgia, that is doing their own research. So hopefully, as we form this Ag Wellness Alliance, we'll be having more consolidated information to share.
Can you share information about how people can contact the Foundation for Agriculture? How do they get in touch with you for this?
Sure, so they can visit our website, gafoundationag.org. All of our contact information is on there, and we'll be putting up a web page soon kind of about farmer mental health. But also, American Farm Bureau has great resources through their Farm State of Mind campaign. So if anyone needs any more information, definitely go check that out.
You mentioned AFBF, so what are the steps you're taking to work with the American Farm Bureau Federation on this?
Yeah, so American Farm Bureau has been working on this issue for quite some time. There's other state farm bureaus that are as well, and they've been having regular meetings through a sounding board. But we are attending the conference in Puerto Rico in January, and we'll have some of our Georgia Farm Bureau representation there, County Farm Bureau president and his spouse, that are going to be participating in a panel looking at how couples manage stress on the farm. So helping with a little bit of the behind the scenes work, but it's important that we get out there what Georgia's doing and share that survey format or any other research with other state farm bureaus as well.
Thanks so much for sharing this information with us. It's so important.
Thank you.
Up next, could this be the future of the peanut industry? It's an advanced piece of technology currently being developed right here in Georgia.
Hi, my name is Nino Brown. I'm with the University of Georgia. I'm an assistant research scientist within the Department of Crop and Soil Science, and I'm a peanut breeder. I work closely with Dr. Bill Branch, who's been the peanut breeder here for over 40 years now. Some of the things that we focus on is increasing yield, of course, increasing dollar value, improving disease resistance, as well as shelling quality, flavor, drought resistance, and just a lot of various agronomic traits that are important to growers. Plant breeding is an expensive, slow, resource-intensive endeavor, and peanuts are especially so. You know, it requires a lot of people and a lot of specialized equipment to breed peanuts. You know, it starts with a cross, and we plant those hybrids in the field. We harvest individual plants from those hybrids, and then we plant nurseries every year from those populations, and individually select plants and individually harvest those plants. And it's very time consuming, and it's a slow process. First of all, we're really lucky in the peanut research group here at UGA to have the support of the Georgia Peanut Commission and the leadership that they show in advancing research at the University of Georgia for peanuts. A few years ago, I gave a preliminary presentation sharing some drone data, sharing how we were using drones in our peanut breeding plots. And Don Kaler approached me to see if a ground-based phenotyping robot would be of any use for looking at traits that are really detailed. And of course I said absolutely, that would be really helpful. So Don put together a group of engineers and people with experience in robotics in agriculture, and we had a meeting and we discussed the potential for developing a robot. We looked at some of the robots that are currently available on the market and decided most of them really wouldn't work for peanuts very well, and so we had to start from the ground up. We've been working with our collaborator in Athens, Charlie Lee and Ray Hsu in the College of Engineering, to develop a ground-based high-throughput phenotyping vehicle platform. They call it Watson. It is designed to drive autonomously through the field using GPS to take measurements. Right now we're starting with, it just takes pictures of the plants, and then we'll use software to analyze those images. We're hoping to use other types of sensors, multispectral sensors and things of that nature, to help us take really detailed measurements of, say, disease symptoms, plant measurements, leaf shape and leaf dimensions, plant architecture, things like that. So that instead of only being able to cover, say, a couple hundred plots in a day, maybe we'll be able to cover several thousand plots in a day to really increase the rate of genetic gain. The initial project was to develop Watson for the purpose of breeding and selection in breeding nurseries. However, there's a lot of application and a lot of potential in the technology for the machine to take measurements in really almost any type of research plots that are done here at UGA, for peanuts anyway. We specially designed it so that it can travel through rough terrain sometimes, muddy terrain. The dimensions of the robot match those what a typical grower would encounter and what typical research plots would encounter. So we could use it in weed science, plant pathology potentially. A lot of different fields could potentially use the robot for high throughput measurements of plant data. And then growers too potentially someday could use this for autonomous weed control, autonomous scouting of their fields for disease symptoms. Really the potential of the technology is limited by our imagination.
Well, big thanks to the Georgia Peanut Commission for that, and thank you for making the show possible.
But before we go, don't forget that for all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening on Georgia farms, be sure you check out all of our social media platforms, including farm-monitor.com. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor.
Stay safe. Have a great week.